Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. He was aiming the sword right at her heart, yet he paused as she quipped, just being killed off like this is such a buzzkill. Want to make a bet? That got his attention. A bet? He repeated, narrowing his eyes. With a gun pressed to her own head and a devilish smile, she added, if she makes it out alive, he has to grant her one request. The Taisho era, where cityscapes are blended with Western culture and constantly undergoing daily transformations. Yet she wonders why it feels so nostalgic. Girls lining up at the ice cream vendor, a dog left waiting in vain, a quarreling modern couple. Her eyes go wide as it hits her. This is the world of Taisho nostalgia Kaden, a popular otome game set in the Taisho era. She doesn't understand how this works, but it seems like she's inside the game, apparently. She really died back then. Her ex fell into debt and disappeared. The client she secured a contract with at work went bankrupt due to a scandal. As a consequence, she was transferred to a crappy department which in turn drained her off or her energy and her social life suffered. It was a sad existence. Her sole source of comfort was playing otomo games. No matter how unlucky she was, she could reach the right ending with multiple tries which made her believe there might be some meaning to her misfortune and in her time it will all pay off. However, even the game intended for comfort didn't go easy on her. She was ready to conquer a certain character, the darkest, most ominous bad ending of Kaden. He drove his sword straight into her heart. She screamed at the top of her lungs, as it became impossible for her to clear this crazy guy's route. Suddenly, one leg of the bed gave way beneath her. She toppled forward, her head smashing hard against the sharp edge of the wood. An unfortunate life, an unlucky demise. There was no reward for her past. Now she wonders if it could be that she was somehow reincarnated into the world of Taisho, Nostalgia Arcaden. A game that she had been obsessed with in her previous life. God sure does some neat stuff. She decides to check out the real-life locations that were in this game and to find where the characters live and look for nearby properties. Suddenly, a carriage pulled up, and the coach announced, Lady Rory, we have arrived. She froze, startled by the title. Lady Rory? The name tugged at something deep inside her memory. Then, catching the reflection in the carriage windows, shock rippled through her. This must be some kind of joke. Ruri or Ruri Kojo is the villainess who gets in the way of the protagonist's romance. She was a typical Yandere younger sister who had been in love with her stepbrother for many years and had discovered that he was engaged to the protagonist. She sought the help of a Chinese mafia member named Haku and asked him to assassinate the girl during the evening engagement announcement party. A bundle of bills in her bag. Chinese-style buildings everywhere. Two large men bow in front of her saying they have been waiting for her. She is on her way to pay off the assassins. If things continue like this, she, the villainess, will be betrayed by Haku because he develops feelings for the protagonist at the party. Which means that she will be killed. He tilts his head slightly, voice unnervingly calm. She wants him to call off the hit. The words are measured, but each one carries a cold, lethal edge. She looks like she might collapse on the spot. Mr. Bad Ending obviously isn't happy about this, but she has to convince him no matter what. Her heart pounds in her chest as she takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. He watches her with narrowed eyes as she meekly murmurs her apology. Even after suggesting something as drastic as an assassination, it seems she was just rattled by her beloved brother's engagement and wasn't serious at all. Even if it is a bit of a stretch. Haku is a mafia member who came to Japan for financial reasons, so she blurts out if he wishes she will prepare double the penalty fee. She believes he might let it slide if she just pays him. She peeks through her wet lashes, saying she humbly apologizes and asks him to overlook such an inconvenience. A slow, unsettling smile spreads across his face. Despite being a woman, doesn't she think that she's being a bit too selfish? Her body locks in place, every instinct screaming that she might collapse under the weight of his gaze. He casually gets up and says plotting an assassination is already a crime the way she describes it now, saying her actions were impulsive and she would pay hush money so make it go away. It's too selfish and lacks credibility. She gasps as he appears suddenly before her, his heavy hand landing on her shoulder. He leans in, close enough that she can feel his presence pressing against her. He can't help but worry, he murmurs, voice low and dangerous, that those sweet lips might spill their secret someday. So, what should he do? He wants her to tell him. Her body trembles violently, eyes widening in panic. She is sorry. She stammers. Amusement drains from his eyes and with a dry one he remarks what a buzzkill. She remembers it is said that if one makes even the slightest mistake it leads to a bad ending, so no one has managed to reach his happy ending on their first playthrough. Labeled as the most dangerous man in the game's history, he is feared by all players. She asks God why is her fate set like this. Even if there was nothing good in her past life, she did try to fall in love. Even if she was forced to work overtime in a crappy department, video games gave her the courage to push through. And she kept her chin up, thinking tomorrow is the day. Were those days all for nothing? She is done with playing love games. Suddenly she remembers Haku had a pleasure-seeking nature and hated boredom more than anything. Even if she were to fall for him, if the protagonist fawned all over him, he would easily lose interest. She reminds herself this is an otome game world and slides her fingers on his chin, lifting it with deliberate calm. Is he seriously going to kill her? She asks. His eyes widen, caught off guard by the sudden shift in her demeanor, as if her single touch had unsettled him entirely. As someone who has experienced countless bad endings, she should be able to find a way out. She smiles and says just being killed off like this is such a buzzkill, doesn't he think? Why don't they make a bed? Her fate is entirely in her hands, and she refuses to be killed by mere bad luck again. A bet, he repeats. She says yes, letting her eyes flick toward the coins. Maybe she could use them for a coin toss or something. But the thought falters, there aren't enough. Haku won't be satisfied with such a weak approach. He would for sure off her with something like that. She thinks hard about what she can use to make it out alive, and a crazy choice comes into her mind. She yanks a gun from her side and presses it to her temple. A game of life and death, she says, her voice steady despite the danger. This handgun showed up in Haku's route. Since Haku is a combat enthusiast who primarily uses blades, he neglects the maintenance of his handgun, a project weapon. So it should malfunction and misfire. During the evening party, the protagonist sensed that she was about to be killed by Haku and snatched the gun right away, but it misfired. Looking at him, Ruri says she would pull the trigger 4 times and if she is to make it out alive then he has to accept her request. He smiles and agrees. First round, no fire. Second round, still nothing. By the third, her hand trembles violently, though she steadies it with the other. She refuses to die so easily, not like she did in her past life. Her parents and her friends, she couldn't say anything to anyone. She hasn't even properly experienced love or her first kiss. She still hasn't done anything. She clicks for the 4th round, nothing. This time, she's going to survive. Before she can pull the trigger for the 5th, he smirks and lifts the gun from her hands, stopping her in an instant. He drawls he has witnessed many deaths in this underworld. But a crazy girl like her is a first. It would be a waste if she would fall prey to the bullets. He levels the gun at the vase, and the fires. With a single shot, the vase explodes into shards. She stands frozen, mouth agape. He laughs and says, where did all that boldness she showed earlier go? Though he has to say even if it was just a bluff, she has got guards. She collapses to the floor, voice trembling but fierce. She insists it's not about guts or bravado, when someone dies, it's over. She's fighting because she wants to live, and there's nothing to laugh at. Before she can say more, he's suddenly at her, lips pressing against hers. When he pulls back, his eyes scan her face. He asks if her tears have dried. She blurts she wasn't crying. His smiles as if he can see straight through her. Really? He murmurs, and then kisses her again. Slowly, deliberately, he slips off his shirt, revealing the snake tattoo coiling along his torso. He tells her he never intended to claim the terms of the bet but asks if she will let him have a little fun with her, just until he can't resist shattering her. She recalls this is the line they get when they enter Haku's route. But how? Isn't she the villainess? As he grabs her arms and reaches for the opening of her dress, she trashes, reminding him there are people here, but just like that, they are gone. He tells his heart, smirking down at her, and asks if she's done worrying. He pulls her closer and places his head on her chest, saying her heart is fluttering like a little bird. He asks if she's scared, or perhaps he leans in closer, whispering that she excited Ukaden was a game that kept it subtle with the adult staff, so she cannot handle this kind of forwardness. It is too much for her. Plus, in this world she has already got her favorite character, an OTP. Suddenly, she tumbles from the bed, a wave of déjà vu washing over her. Is she unlucky in love in this life too? She had become a villainess, always caught in one predicament after another. This reincarnation might as well have been nothing more than a daydream. When she blinks her eyes open slowly. Haku asks if she's awake. So it wasn't a dream, after all. She glances around frantically. What should she do? There's nowhere to run this time. He reaches for her, ruffling her hair with a casual touch. A girl with a bump on her head is very interesting, he says, voice teasing. He assures he won't get any weird ideas. She blinks, confused. Has his personality suddenly shifted? Then he says he has got some bad news. He has decided to back out of this whole thing, but it seems the other client has decided to proceed with the assassination of Asahi Hitotsubashi. Clueless, she stares at him, frozen. The other client? Actually, it seems that apart from Ruri, there was another request for Haku to assassinate the protagonist. And when Haku proposed canceling the assassination to that client, the man said that he will do it himself and not to get in his way. He got threatened in return. She says. So he was planning on taking the same request from 2 clients and doubling the fee, right? Didn't he say he prioritizes trust? He doesn't look guilty in the least. He tells her not to take a mafia's word at face value. Now she has learned something useful, right? And he has also pulled out of the head. He see that as a decent outcome, but she's still not satisfied. She sits up, muscles tensing. He watches her, head resting on his hand, and drawls, so what's her next move? Her eyes flash with fierce resolve. Obviously, she is going to stop that assassination. In the mansion, she pleads with her stepbrother to postpone the party tonight. He narrows his eyes at her and asks if she is trying to ruin his reputation. They cannot postpone with honored guests coming, can they? He tells her not to act so selfishly. She follows him and says she has heard some unsettling rumors. There is someone with ill will for Asahi because she's engaged to him and they are trying to ruin this party. He pauses when she insists it is true. But then he glances at her, eyes hard, and says, isn't that person her? She has the courtesy to look ashamed. Her brother says he doesn't know what trouble she will cause, so they should keep her locked up until the party is over, and justice like that she is locked in the attic. Infuriated with her stepbrother, Ruri turned herself into the nemesis of the protagonist, his fiancée. After throwing enough historical fits, he started to hate her. The protagonist, Asahi, and her stepbrother Kanato are portrayed as the main couple in the game. The destined couple. They are childhood friends raised in the same orphanage, and they made vows for a future together. Neither of them knew the other was adopted into a noble family. After agreeing to an arranged marriage, the two of them crossed paths again as fiancés. The party tonight is special because the actions that will decide the pair's fate will be put into motion. She, being their hard shipper, doesn't want the event for her beloved OTP to become a blood-soaked tragedy. Being the daughter of a count, their house is a large manor with many floors. But if she moves smoothly across the rooftops, she can get into the party without any hitches. Even if she falls, as long as she manages to land on a tree in the yard, it will only hurt a little. Probably. Those two are indeed living in this world. So she wants them to be happy. She knows there won't be anyone coming to save her, so she has to do it herself. She jumps out of the attic's small window, landing hard on her but before tumbling into a couch. A giggle catches her attention, and she hears his voice. Not too steady on her feet, is she? She looks up and finds Haku standing there. She asks why is he here. He smiles faintly. Good or bad, he is just the type to lend a hand to those in need. She thinks by which he means he plans to charge an outrageous fee, doesn't he? She mutters she learnt the hard way about messing with the mafia, so she thinks he would be better off looking to make a quick buck somewhere else. She cannot give him anything in return and she never knows when he might turn on her. Teaming up with Haku is too risky. There's no time for negotiating right now and she has to sort this out on her own. That look again, like he's found a new toy to occupy himself. Before he clarifies he's not asking for any money or her life. Just how about they continue from where they left off? Stunned, she murmurs, continue. He tilts his head, eyes glinting, and tugs a lock of her hair. Voice low and deliberate. He says let him sleep with her and that will be his fee. He pulls her from behind, and she mutters that it hurts. He smiles faintly and says she will get used to it soon enough. When he unbuttons her corset more roughly, she lets out a curse. Yet her terms were clear, he was to obey her every command. And now, bitterly, she realizes the irony. She has sacrificed herself for the very girl she once tried to kill. Indeed, there is a significant contradiction in actions between Ruri and her. Because in the first place she asked to stop the assassination to avoid the death route. But it's not only that, it's also because she likes the protagonist. Being the illegitimate child of Baron Hitatsu was abandoned at an orphanage at a young age. At 15 years old, she was brought back to high society as the sole heir. Alone in a world with no allies, surrounded with mockery and malice and schemes. And yet she resiliently faced a life that could only be described as unfortunate. With a single promise in her heart, that side of her had been a lifesaver for her multiple times. She convinces herself that if it's settled by her purity, it's not a bad bargain. She snaps out of the moment when he asks if this is going to be her first time. Mortification washes over her when she realizes she said it out loud. He mumbles he assumed that she must have had a pretty messed up past if she were asking for his help. He has heard that even if it costs their life, they have to protect their purity. This is what is taught in Japanese education. He whispers in her ear if she's fine with handing over something that important to him. She whirls around and looks at him with a serious face and declares nothing is worth risking their life over. If asked to die for honor, she would flee barefoot. Among folks as fleeting and resolute as cherry blossoms, who would say honor is more vital than life itself, he cannot help but think she is a total oddball. Ever since that moment, the urge hasn't stopped, her immeasurable heart, the glint in those eyes, he is itching to dig up everything about this girl. Her body, her heart, he wants to savor it all down to the bone. And finally, he wants to kill her. Destroying something rare makes his heart race. So until that day comes, she is his. He pulls her into the cage of his arms and bites at her neck, leaving a bruise. She glares at him, anger flaring as she touches it and snaps he left a mark. He smirks and counters that some shady people will show up at the party, so consider it a safety measure. He leans closer and warns her not to let her guard down around other men. She snaps back that he shouldn't get distracted by pretty girls and neglect to help her either. He lifts her effortlessly, holding her in his arms. He murmurs that there's no need to worry, no other girl besides her will ever enter his sight. He jumps down from the balcony, landing lightly. He explains that this area is often left open for people to come out and chat, so security here is light, it's perfect for sneaking in. She raises an eyebrow. He seems to know her house better than she does. He smirks, teasing, that if she hadn't changed her mind, he would have been the assassin. Only the Kujo's family servants can enter the party. Since they cannot use anyone else for the job, the assassin will have to do it himself. Right now she should try to keep a low profile and wait for that guy to show up. She spots a few girls gushing over Haku, surprised at how popular he seems. But she knows his true nature. To her, he's nothing but a grim reaper, crossing paths with him is a guaranteed death sentence. Kanatu appears, frowning as he catches sight of her stepsister, and demands why she is here. Without warning, he seizes her hand roughly and orders her to leave, but Ruri tries to plead, asking why he won't hear her out. In an instant, Haku intervenes, yanking Kanatu's hand away and pulling the girl firmly into his arms, surrounding her protectively. Today, it's his duty to escort his dear sister, he says, his tone calm yet edged with quiet warning. He then smiles and says no matter how close the siblings are, he cannot heal but feel jealous when someone else holds his beloved's hands. Kanatu, recognizing him from the White Lotus Training Guild and recalling the missing treasury funds, accuses her stepsister of hiring him with that money, muttering how low she can stoop. He even produces a check, signs it, and holds it up, insisting Haku take her back at once with double the payment. Haku shakes his head, voice low and unwavering. No, he has been promised something money cannot buy. He cannot follow his orders. Sliding her fingers near her chest for emphasis. Realizing the implication, Kanata warns she is still a noble's daughter. Does he truly think he will escape accountability for this? Haku lets an easy smile play across his lips before his eyes harden, and in a low, dangerous voice, he warns that he should pay closer attention to his surroundings. If he makes a big fuss, he may end up soiling the Kujo's family's good name after they did him a favor. As a young master, it is his responsibility to host and protect guests. Kanata swallows hard, intimidated, and mutters that he will address this later before turning away. Ruri asks what did he say. Haku teases he will tell her in bed. And then, changing the topic swiftly, he says their prey has arrived. He served the Hitatsubashi family until the end of the Bakumatsu War, but was abruptly abandoned. He is a tragic baron who lost the wealth and estate that he inherited from his ancestors and was exiled to a remote area. And then make his appearance, but he's able to gloat about it once the successor to the Hitotsubashi family dies. His premature joy gave way to uncontainable rage. His grudges would pale in comparison. She mumbles it is a hassle to have a noble title, isn't it? Haku's voice drops to a hard whisper as he lays out the danger. If they botch the evidence and the assassination can't be proved, the blame will ricochet back on them. Her family will be held responsible, he'll lose his trade, and she'll likely end up locked away in some convent. If they plan to act, they have to wait until the murder method becomes clear. A baron who wasn't even part of the game's original story. She became Ruri and Hookah's actions changed, so the plot is changing. She has no idea what's going to happen next. The baron's gaze flickers their way, and Haku immediately pulls her closer against his chest, his voice a low murmur. She is being too obvious, that will only make the prey wary. He reminds her that no one ever knows how such things will play out, all they can do is make it easy for the target to take the bait. Without warning, he tugs her onto the dance floor, his hand firm at her back. He explains that if they create a distraction, the rat will have room to move. She blinks, startled. So that's why he suddenly wants to dance. Seriously, she can't predict what this man will do next. It's bad for her heart. She mumbles under her breath, asking where he even learned to dance. He's a mafioso, after all. His lips brush her ear as he whispers back, from parties to funerals. Even as he indulges her, his gaze never strays from the target. Etiquette, he adds, had been hammered into him. She shoots back that he's probably the reason for half those funerals. That's when he notices the Baron has made his move. Poison. In a sudden shift, Haku shoves Ruri away just as a servant approaches the protagonist with a drink. Knives and fork hidden in his fingers, he steps forward and commands the men to let him through. Before she can lift the glass, Ruri collides with her, sending the drink splattering down her dress. Kanata storms forward, face livid, and shouts that she never stops meddling with his fiancé. His hand strikes across her cheek, leaving half her face stinging and numb. Haku watches in silence, eyes unreadable, as the brother snarls that she must be removed before she causes further chaos. Before she can answer, Haku steps forward, voice smooth. He apologizes, insisting that as her escort, he will take responsibility and provide his fiancée with a new garment. Kanata snaps that it won't be necessary, they have a spare. But Haku only tilts his head, pointing out that replacing a soiled dress is simple. Replacing a tarnished engagement ring, however, is more complicated. He pulls her hand forward for all to see, the silver band glinting. A pure silver ring doesn't blacken from wine, he remarks softly, but arsenic, that's another matter. His gaze flicks to the servant. He brought the wine, didn't he? The servant's face pales. Trembling, he admits that Baron Ide had ordered him to deliver the celebratory drinks. The Baron calls it an accusation and demands proof. Haku leans in, whispering into Kanata's ear, there's a tiny bottle in his pocket. Kanata straightens, turning to Fuga. He can count on him for this. Fwag replies this is the military police's main job, after all. He faces Baron Ide and says would he care to join him for a chat in the chamber. The Baron snaps, his glare cutting to Haku. How dare he? Haku turns, eyes glinting and asks what did he say about him. The Baron startles before he's escorted away. The protagonist whispers to Kanata, Ruri looked so desperate when she spilled her wine. Could it be that she tried to save her? Later, when Haku returns, she looks up and notes that he is back. He answers that he had to sort things out in place of the lady who got herself kicked out. She remarks that she has already heard the story from the butler and that he nailed it. His gaze drifts to her cheek as he asks if it hurts. She assures him it does not hurt that much anymore. Without warning, his hand brushes against her bruised skin as he leans in closer. Her eyes blur, she cannot tell if it is relief or sadness, but when his lips touch hers in quiet comfort, she wants nothing more than to cling to him. Then she remembers what she owes him and asks if they are going to do it here. He blinks at her words, momentarily surprised, before saying that he will go home tonight. Making a girl who's already in tears cry even harder is just in bad taste. She fumes. He kisses her like that only to walk away. What is wrong with him? Her squeaky outrage follows him out of the mansion, drawing a faint smile to his lips. Into the night air, he murmurs that she should not sulk like that. Today alone is not enough, which is why he intends to hold out until tomorrow. A woman hisses. She admits that both the arrest of Baron, who committed the crime, and the fact that Kanata's fiancé Asahi came out unharmed were all thanks to her. However, was it necessary for her to splash wine all over her dress? Not only that, but she was running, yelling and causing a ruckus in the dance hall. Does she even know what they're calling her in high society? A completely undisciplined monkey. Ruri thinks, at least it's not the villainess. Her mother then lowers her head in despair and says thanks to her actions, all potential marriage proposals have been withdrawn, and if she doesn't marry, it will mean the end of the Kyujo family lineage that has lasted for a millennium. And they must avoid that at all costs. With that, her mother declares until they find her a spouse, she is confined to this room indefinitely. Her mouth falls open. If they cannot find her a spouse, then she cannot go outside. And yet with all this gossip, chances of finding someone are pretty slim. On the 15th day of confinement, she sprawls across her bed in a most unladylike fashion, wondering if this is the end of her. She managed to avoid being killed off and thought she could finally enjoy her favorite world, perhaps even visit the real-life locations from the game. Instead, she finds herself under constant surveillance by the maids, trapped with no chance of escape, and with her usual dreadful reputation leaving her no allies to turn to. No one except him. The thought stalls, a shiver slipping down her spine, just as she mutters into the empty air that he should really learn to knock before entering into her room. Haku looms over her with a faint smile, a smear of blood darkening his cheek, and remarks that he comes to see her in the middle of his work, only to be met with such coldness. She points out that he seems to have brought home a little work souvenir on his face. This is why he is the most dangerous being in this world. Speaking of souvenirs, Haku says as he slips a hand into his coat and pulls out a small pack of milk caramel candies. She watches him with a sad look, thinking that at the very least he could have wiped the blood from his cheek first. Instead, he pulls her onto his lap and unwraps one of the candies, pressing it between her lips himself. She murmurs that the taste is wonderful, that it makes her happy, but asks why he never lets her eat on her own. He replies with a lazy smile that this is how people feed dogs and cats. Her temper flares, and she snaps, demanding if he is truly putting her on the same level as dogs and cats. Haku says it is not such a bad thing for her, if they grow used to touching like this, it will make accepting each other far easier. That way, when the time comes, she will not suffer too much. Then, with a glint in his eyes, he suggests they give it a try right now. Her face burns crimson. She stammers that her mother ordered the maids to remain in the next room. He shrugs, calm as ever, and says then she better not make a sound. She argues there is no way she could keep her voice down. Haku brushes his thumb across her cheek, turns her face to him, and answers that if she cannot stay quiet, then he will simply cover her mouth. A muffled voice from outside the door cuts through the tension. One of the maids wonders aloud if they heard something, then dismisses it as Lady Ruri talking in her sleep. Haku's palm is already over her mouth, his low murmur hot against her ear. Perhaps it is still too soon for that kind of fun, he says. Their deal will have to wait, but in return, she is never to refuse him again, even if he does that. He seals his words with a firm kiss and pulls back with quiet finality, declaring that her lips belong to him from this day on. She just got stuck with more promises with this troublesome man. She should really hate being forced into this. But the smoldering heat of his body traversing the night to seep into her cold form feels so pleasant. She wonders what he will do if she tells Haku that she is looking for a marriage partner. What would she want him to do? Her mother finally enters her room and tells her she is granting her permission to leave her room, and says she has some guests. Outside, her stepbrother and his fiancée have come. I saw he apologizes for not being able to greet her sooner and says it is thanks to her quick thinking that she's still here at all, unable to meet her, and she would like to express her heartfelt gratitude. Ruri blurts it is not necessary. He hasn't really done anything to be thanked for. She thinks she has completely wrecked the party. Just as her mother warned, she acted without thinking it through. Her voice drops into a guilty murmur, wishing she could have been more considerate, regretting herself with every word. Yet, to her surprise, Fuga speaks up calmly and says that what she did was the right thing. Fuga explains that the wine had been laced with a slow-acting poison imported from mainland China, a substance so volatile that a single sip could claim a life. If Ruri had not caught the servant and forced the truth into the open, the crime would have remained buried. If Asahi had drunk even a sip, she would not be here now. Kanata mutters that it all sounds overly dramatic, insisting she only got lucky that her usual teasing ended well this time. Asahi immediately cuts him off, her hand tightening around Ruri's. She says Ruri must not speak of it that way because she saved her life. Ruri's lips curve into a small, trembling smile. She thinks to herself that this was what she wanted, to protect this person. And she succeeded. Fuga leans closer to Kanata and whispers that if he insists on acting so cold and distant, no one will want to remain at his side. Asahi then says she wants to mend the misunderstandings between them. She wishes to know Ruri better, to become friends. To Ruri, she looks like an angel, more radiant even than her in-game counterpart. Fuga declares this is the perfect opportunity, suggesting they all head to a terrace cafe for coffee. At the cafe, when the waiter comes to take their orders, Kanata speaks first. He says Asahi always takes her coffee with extra milk and sugar. His fiancée blinks in surprise and asks how he knew what she was about to say. Kanata replies stiffly that he always watches her, so he can tell what she likes. Fuga smirks and remarks that it sounds like something a married couple would say. Kanata's face burns crimson as he blurts out that it is not like that at all, that it is simply his duty as a fiancé. Ruri's eyes gleam with stars as she sits across from them, witnessing her OTP romance blossom right before her. Fuga chuckles at her dazed expression and remarks that she looks much better. He supposes going outside really does wonders for the health. This guy is Fuga Kikuchi. He is a romanceable character from Okaden. And actually, he is her second crush. People mistake him for a playboy due to his flashy appearance, but he deeply respects his father, who has already risen to the rank of baron with his achievements, and he is determined to follow in his dad's footsteps and has dedicated himself to serving the country. He is stoic warrior at heart. He has a charming contrast between his looks and personality. He is a close friend to Kanatu, so he wasn't supposed to think well of Ruri, who was always up to no good. But now, as he quietly watches her, that isn't the reaction she was expecting. But then Ruri's eyes catch on a familiar figure and freeze. Haku. Kanata notices him as well, his face darkening with fury. He growls that he invited that man only to hear his account, but Haku never even bothered to reply. And yet here he is, loitering around. It doesn't stop there. A girl suddenly tugs Haku down by his tie and presses her lips against his. He accepts it with a smirk, then calmly straightens his tie afterward, as though nothing ever happened. When his gaze lifts, he finds Ruri staring back at him, eyes wide with shock. Haku walks straight toward her, ignoring the others, and leans down so only she can hear. Strange. Being here means she finally got permission to step out. His eyes flick briefly toward the gathering, his tone laced with amusement as he remarks, quite the sight, so many nobles lined up in one place. Kanata pushes to his feet, fury simmering, and snarls, forget the rest. What's the deal with him and that lady just now? Isn't he dating Ruri? Dating? Haku repeats. He never even promised himself to her. Ruri sits stiff and silent, as if she wants to disappear. Her brother surges up, face twisted with rage. Was that his attitude while he was with her? Before he can do more, Fuga catches his arm, murmuring, not here. This is public. Haku only shrugs, his gaze dropping back to Ruri. What's there to be so angry about? He reaches toward her, but Asahi rises, hand flying. The sharp crack of her slap cuts through the room. She doesn't know the details, Asahi says firmly, her voice steady. Maybe he has his reasons. But if his feelings are so shallow that he can't even understand why she's hurt, then he should forget about her entirely. Silence follows. They lead Ruri away, but she can't stop herself from glancing back once. Haku is still standing there, stunned, as if the slap has left him speechless. Later that night, lying in bed, Ruri reflects with a bitter ache. Asahi had been angry for her sake. Yet, Haku had only spoken the truth. They went from kisses to even more intimate encounters, but they are not in that kind of relationship. Though he took advantage of the tension in the moment and she got swept along. That is to say, he took advantage of her. To put it simply, their relationship is messy. Though memories of their movements flicker through her mind, she lets herself admit she has been a fool to believe there might be more to it. The next morning, her maid enters with a bright smile, congratulating her and announcing the confinement order has been lifted as of today. Ruri frowns in surprise, but the maid continues, there is no need to worry. She just needs to get ready quickly and head to the reception room. Her fiancé is waiting. Her breath catches. Her fiancé. Without another word, she rushes down the corridor. When she bursts into the reception room, she stops dead in her tracks. Fuga stands there, waiting. Her eyes widen, shock rooting her in place. The realization strikes her, they mean him. He is now her fiancé. Her mouth falls open, but no words come. They trail into the garden and Fuga says that although he has known Kanata since their academy days, he and she have rarely spoken, so he understands his sudden proposal must have come as a shock, but to be truthful he never held the best impression of her, which she admits to herself is no surprise since back when she teased Asahi he would stand behind her brother and look at her as if she were lower than a worm. Yet Fuga goes on to say that when he saw her manage to smile even after Kanado slapped her, he cannot explain it with logic, but in that moment he realized he liked her. She really doesn't get why he fell for her, but hearing "I like you" from their favorite would make any girl's heart flutter, right? She controls her feelings so she doesn't end up smiling like an idiot in front of him. Fuga expresses his love straightforwardly and his routes are high in happiness the whole way through. Her Tsundra brother is her favorite, but if she had to marry someone she would want it to be the sweet, affectionate Fuga. That was what she often fantasized about while playing. If that becomes reality, living a life that is 1000% dedicated to love would make her so happy that she just might burst. Swept away by tides of misfortune, she ended up being reborn in a different world. She jumps in happiness, her heart racing. Has luck finally come her way? But then, out of nowhere, his face flashes through her mind and she clutches her head. That's how it's supposed to be, so why, of all things, does that fool's face have to appear now? She snaps out of her thoughts when he quietly says he has a feeling he knows who she is thinking of, and murmurs almost to himself. Seems like neither of them have quite realized it yet. He then tells her to take her time to think it over. He will wait for her no matter how long it takes. However, if she allows it, if only just a little, he would be more than honored to have the chance to get to know her. Her heart throbs. She feels that feeling again. Her mother watches behind the bushes, thinking if she doesn't accept the engagement, maybe she should be locked up after all. After that, Fuga started showing up at the Kujo residence more frequently than before. One day they were in the market when she pointed out he wasn't wearing his uniform today. He smiled and replied he didn't want their time together to be disrupted even by the citizens whom he dedicates his life to. Her heart races, a habit it has only picked up around him lately. However, ever since that day, Haku has yet to show himself again. She arrives at one of the places she did as a child in her past. In the game, she remembers, the boat they were riding sprung a leak. Only the school president and she didn't make it to the rescue boat in time and they ended up sinking. Suddenly the boat springs a leak. She wonders if the god of fate has simply run out of ideas. Panic grips her but Fuga remains calm, calling out to the other boat nearby and asking if there is anything to plug the hole with. In the end, she is saved by his composure. The man on the other boat offers to take them aboard. But Fuga warns that with 3 people it will likely sink, so he will head to shore by himself. To their shock, Fuga suddenly plunges into the water. She watches him, and in that moment, he looks impossibly handsome. She pulls out her handkerchief and tries to wipe the water from his cheeks. Instead, he pulls her closer and assures her he is all right, then suggests they take a break in the shade, since the sun is so strong. She mumbles an apology, blaming herself, but he gently rebukes her, saying the accident was caused by the manager's neglectful inspection. Why should she take the blame? She lowers her gaze and admits this is the second time she has boarded a boat that sank here. She doesn't think it's just coincidence. Things like this always seem to happen around her. Her friends often said that nothing good ever happens when she's around. She insists she's used to it, but what shames her is dragging others into her misfortune. When she looks up, he meets her eyes and calmly says it is true that life often brings about events that are difficult to explain as mere coincidence. Perhaps it is something like fate, but even so, she has nothing to fear. As a soldier, he has honed both his body and mind through experience, and he has the strength to carry more than just his own burdens. If he could shoulder some of hers, he would be overjoyed. Her eyes blur with tears as she gazes at him. He is truly strong and kind. There is no doubt about that. If she says yes to his proposal, she would have a happy life. But why is her heart still closed and unresponsive? Perhaps she's looking for someone. Before leaving, he suggests, almost casually, what she would say to watching a film at the Imperial Theater next time. It would be screened at night. The moment the words leave his mouth, he panics, realizing how it might sound. He hurriedly adds that, yes, he invited her out at night, but his intentions are pure. After all, such things should only be considered once their feelings are properly aligned. She smiles, finding him incredibly innocent. Both end up smiling. She feels like he's too good for her. Ever since that day when she hears sounds from the window, her heart feels restless. The promise of a kiss, the truth of that day, the things she wants to ask swirl within her heart. How does Haku feel about her? Haku stirs out of his thoughts and looks up. The woman, her back turned to him as she gazes out the window, remarks that things seem quite chaotic in the Republic of China lately. With both the emperor and successor gone, warlords from small nations and criminal entities have struggled in pursuit of the empty throne. He's in Japan for that reason, right? For fundraising. Haku smirks and says she has done her research. She admits her husband seems to be pondering where to invest. He believes that if the faction he helps comes into power, his return will more than double. He whispers from behind, he would love to listen to the whole story in detail sometime. She giggles and replies not yet, accompanying that little brat to the Kujo's family's evening partner. She won't forgive that. The girl turns to him and says lately, even when she tries to be intimate, he has been distant. She wonders if his feelings have changed. Forcing a note of sadness into his tone, Haku says it wounds him to think she doubts him. That was simply the nature of his job, one he could not refuse. He pulls her closer and murmurs, cannot she see how crazy he is about her? The girl replies that's right, she has everything he could ever want. Loads of money, a voluptuous figure, love. She then casually adds she heard that the young girl got engaged. She had such a funny look on her face when she made a show of kissing him. She pulls him into her arms, his expression a blank mask, while she whispers that she has at last understood he is hers. Serves her right, she says. Once outside, Haku breathes out. He knew that girl had been proposed to, but he also knows that she didn't accept his proposal. He was utterly disgusted with that woman risking a scandal in order to keep Ruri in check. He must be out of his mind as well. He has had his subordinates keep an eye on Ruri's movements ever since then. So when he heard the two of them went out together, he observed from afar. And yet here he is, paying a visit to the girl he stopped seeing. Just as he has treated that woman and others. That was all business. There were no emotions. He could have just swallowed up all her opposing words with his lips. Yet he couldn't forget that girl with those honest eyes was the only one. The sky rumbles, and heavy rain pours over the mansion. Haku lingers outside, wondering if she still hasn't returned. Then he hears voices, hers among them. She laughs softly, teasing that she is such a rain magnet. He doesn't have much space, right? He answers back with playful ease, saying that sharing it with her is nothing less than a privilege. Her laughter rings out, light and unguarded. From the shadows, Haku watches, his gaze fixed on the curve of her smile. She can laugh so freely with another man. His eyes darken, madness flickering within them. Moments later, he slips soundlessly through the window, rain still dripping from his clothes. He looms over her, his presence overwhelming, and bends close enough to whisper, his voice edged with obsession, isn't she his woman? And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.